Chapter 10. I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed most of the afternoon. Jill was off someplace. We postponed our rooftop car buying plans for another time and split up after getting armor from the armory. The sergeant was only slightly less impolite now that we had signed orders. I went to check on the pickup truck and the gasoline and met Lopez only for a minute. He gathered MREs and had night vision goggles recharged. We agreed to meet an hour before dark to check our gear and make plan for the airport, and then we parted ways. Not being able to rest, I got out of bed and decided to brush my teeth and hair in the bathroom. It was a minor comfort that bathrooms still worked. My long red hair was unmanageable without the right conditioners. I couldn't even remember the brands I'd used anymore. That was one of 1,000 things that were no longer important. A plastic flower or rubber bands for a ponytail usually sufficed to keep my hair in check. Afterwards, I walked the hallways looking for something to do and found my feet taking me toward the recovery rooms to check on Connors. I found him propped up in bed staring at the walls. A massive bandage was wrapped around his leg. "Hey, wake up," I laughed. He smiled and looked at me. "I'm so bored." "I bet. Any good magazines?" I picked up a stack of old tattered gossip rags from a chair and sat down. Flipping through the pages, I found out what Angelina, Hilton, and Cruz shared in common. According to the dates, the magazines were several years old. "What are you doing?" Normally I'll be doing the lunch dishes and then heading over to the laundry. "And today?" "Got the day off to sleep." "So you're going back out tonight?" "I want to go now. Winter set tonight." Connors nodded. "You've been here for how long?" 6 months. I poured 2 cups of water from a pitcher and handed one to Connors. "What was he like out there?" "We weren't out there that long." "More than me?" "It sucked?" Well, it didn't suck at first. It sucked later." Connors didn't say anything. His eyes fell to his blankets. "The night after the first attack, we packed all my dad's gear, tents, guns, ammo, fishing poles, warm clothes, sleeping bags, canned and dry foods, all that could fit. When Jill came and knocked on the window, my dad almost blew her head off with a shotgun. Jill and I lived in the Ozarks with my dad. It was safe there. No zombies, no scabs. Some farmers, but they stayed on their own land, living like nothing happened until it did happen." "What was that like?" "A long camping trip. My dad taught me and Jill to hunt and fish. We collected fruit from trees, dug up roots and wild carrots for stew made with the game we managed to shoot. We raided abandoned farms. It was actually nice for a little while until the scabs started showing up. Then the zombies followed." "Infected scavengers?" "Yeah. Jill and I went to a farm that my dad knew after he died. We helped the people there in exchange for food, but some scabs came along and we took off. It was better that way. It was an old couple and their adult grandkids. With us being there, there were so many of them. There were too many of us. It was too dangerous for them, and we were getting in their way." "Where'd you go?" "We left with a trader. We hunted, gathered food, repaired broken junk. We moved around Arkansas and Missouri, only for a month or so." "I see," Connor said. "The guy and his buddies, they wanted." "You don't have to say. There's no law and order out there." "They were drug addicts. I didn't know that at first. They drank liquor and they traded in alcohol. But I found out they were involved in drugs. They made crystal meth. They knew where people were growing pot. Everything got crazy fast. They were lazy and violent. I was already making plans to get away when one of them tried to. I stopped in fear at the thought. I looked at the floor, took a deep breath, and then looked at the ceiling. It wasn't me that I worried about, but Jill. It's over. You're here, Connor said. He came to my sleeping bag one night. He didn't know I slept with a knife. I got him right in the side. I laughed, but not in glee or in vengeance. You killed me, he said. And he was probably right. There are no hospitals out there. No real hospitals anyway. Nope. Connors continued to examine his sheets and blankets with fidgety fingers and downcast eyes. You know, doctors and nurses became zombies and came to places like this. Scabs are vampires. Connors looked at me with wide eyes. Since the virus made people into violent animals that we called zombies, it was stranger still to talk of vampires or any other mythical creatures. I'd have thought that ideas of ghouls and monsters would be more common. Zombies live off dead people. I explained the reference. Scabs live off a dead society. That's what I mean by vampires. They suck the last drops of blood out of everything there once was. I've thought as much. I wondered what his story was, but he didn't say much that day, so I kept talking. If only to feel the air. I stole a truck from them and Jill and I drove here. I didn't have a license, but I wasn't worried about getting a ticket. I laughed. The highways were pretty clear back then. Had to trade away some ammunition as a road toll in Rogers. We got here and pleaded for entry. You know that military protection was mandatory after martial law was declared. Then these compounds were locked down to keep the virus out. Outside we did what my father said, and then what the Scabs said. Here we do what Grayson and now Winters says. The military rules, even the civilian council is just for advice. No offense, Private. Connors smiled. I hated to remember the beginning. I couldn't forget it. I tried to forget all of it, but I tried to forget even yesterday, but I couldn't. And the words just came from my mouth. Babbling and maybe being depressing. I couldn't stop myself. I made decisions for Jill and me. And I made some bad ones, but coming back to Tulsa was right. Our youth was to our advantage, and after sticking us in quarantine for 2 weeks, the hardest part was that it took a long time for people to trust us. I finally fell silent and Connors didn't speak either. We sat there for a long time listening to the soldiers and civilians coming and going, with most talking in whispers and others talking loudly. They must have thought that no one overheard them or cared what they said. The echo of metal on tile clattered from some distant place. Electric generators started up and then stopped in some deep basement. Someone coughed. A pen scratched on paper, writing, perhaps, a note on a patient's chat or a letter that could never be mailed. In the lobby area down the hall, little girls played cards with the occasional goldfish called out. Hurried feet ran with a clatter. The faint sound of children's story was told in exaggerated voices from a far corner where the little children were entertained during the daytime. Far away, someone listened to music. We had solar panels and battery chargers. 12-volt inverters let us charge batteries, iPods and iPads, night vision goggles, and cell phones for flashlights. I fiddled with my cell phone. I used to have one of those, Connor said at last. I looked up at him. Broke it in combat. Shouldn't have brought it along. I used to play games on it before the games got boring. I had a few games. You want to borrow it? I stretched my hand out to offer it to him. Nah. I didn't use it much. As a flashlight mainly, not a very good one. I used to write emails to my parents in the day, keep their memories alive. Miss my old girlfriends sometimes. Me too. I blushed when I realized what I'd implied. Not girlfriends, boyfriends. He laughed. Bummer. Those emails can't be sent. Yeah, I saved them and read them sometimes. I even have old text messages. It's an old phone. Not cloud. No. Saved on the phone. It's from before the cloud died and deleted everything. Lucky. I lost everything. Would like to have my old emails again. Maybe someday, I said. Maybe. Cannot doubt that computers sitting around for over a year will work ever again. It's really a dark age, isn't it? I said. So much for the social age, he scoffed. Lost and forgotten. Where are all the IT people who could fix the computers? He shook his head. Hey, I said in an effort to change the subjects. Who do you suppose is stealing? He shrugged his shoulder. I don't mean like regular thieves. The personal stuff? He asked. Yeah, I don't know. I might say Wilcox if I didn't know him better. Wilcox had a photo stolen. I didn't know that. I guess it could be anyone, I shrugged. Lopez? Connors offered. Why? Why would anyone steal, he asked. Steal worthless stuff. Crazy, revenge, stupid, pick one. I shook my head. I had no answers. I got up to leave and Connors asked, You gonna sleep? If I can. I can't sleep either. Wish you were going tonight. Me too. I bid farewell and headed back to my bed. I hoped I was tired enough to actually sleep. We had to leave in less than 5 hours and I hadn't slept in over 2 days. Back in bed, exhausted, and yet I couldn't sleep. Instead, brooding on the past and gathering hope for the future. Finally letting my mind go blank by concentrating on the sound of my home. I detected something that was out of place. Thinking long and hard, it revealed itself. It wasn't anything new, but something old that was missing. A sound I had become used to was absent. The random sniper fire from the roof. The zombies and the leaders were indoors, hiding somewhere away from Fort Tulsa. Maybe planning, plotting, growing smarter, and growing stronger. They hid themselves from our snipers. It was unusual. 2 people talked. One was a woman. Hurried footfalls echoed down a nearby hallway.